Hey guys, it's Sarah at Carnivore.yogi on Instagram. Thank you so much for tuning into my channel. Today I am actually going to talk, maybe not even carnivore, I'm going to talk about binge eating. I've been a binge eater since I can remember. I'm 40 now and I have not had a binge for almost an entire year. I'm going to talk about that. I'm also going to talk about the brain, the way that the brain is wired. There are tons of YouTube videos about how to stop binging or 5 tips to stop binging or yada, yada, yada. A lot of them are based around changing your mindset, positive thinking, things you can do, like getting all the food out of the house. And okay, those things are important, but I think we need to get down to the basic root cause and how the brain actually works, what your brain is doing when you're stuck in a binge cycle. And the thing about the brain is it is neuroplastic, so it's good and bad. The more that you're binging, the more that you're giving into those desires, the stronger those neurons are going to get. The other good news is with some of these techniques and some of the science I'm giving you guys, I hope that you walk away from this video feeling empowered, feeling that there are things that you can do to stop that binging cycle, to strengthen your brain, and to just start living your life. Because when we are living in addiction, we're not really living. We're going through a slow death, in my opinion. I've been someone who's been addicted to food my entire life. I have fought against alcohol addiction, and when I'm in an addictive cycle, I'm not living. And what really happens, the way that the brain is set up, when those addiction centers are active in the brain, it is your primitive brain, your animal brain, you're unable to use the neocortex, which is that frontal lobe, executive functioning. That part of the brain has been studied in labs, and you're not actually able to access your frontal lobe when those addiction centers are very active. So if you've ever been on a binge and just felt like out of control, you can't stop, your body is running the show, and up here you're like, oh, I don't really want to be doing this, I'm not necessarily even getting pleasure out of this anymore, but it just continues to happen. You go to sleep, you wake up the next day, and you do it again. And how long is that cycle going to repeat? Your brain is literally stuck, you guys. It's not that you're crazy, it's not that you're weak, it's not any of that stuff that maybe some other people are saying. Your brain is literally stuck in your reptilian brain, that primal part of your brain. And I lived that way for years. I've lost 100 pounds 3 times in my life. So you don't gain that much weight if you don't have binge eating disorder. So binge eating disorder, for me, what it looked like is I will start eating, I lose track of what I'm eating. It's almost like I go into a blackout eating. I eat until I'm sick, absolutely sick. I'll stop a little bit, and then I start eating again. And again, this could last a day, it could last a few hours, it could last a few weeks, and it sucks. It just really sucks. And when I stopped doing the eating, I quit. I lost 100 pounds this last time, and I did another video about this, was it depression and carnivore? But this last time that I lost 100 pounds, it was over 10 years ago, that's when my alcohol addiction kicked in, because those addiction centers want to take over my brain. And so instead of eating myself to death and binging to death, I was using alcohol. So that addiction literally just switched over to alcohol. So learning how to get to the root of this stuff, to rewire your brain, here's the good news. You guys can rewire your brain. You're not stuck like this. It doesn't have to be like this forever. Hopefully you walk away from this video feeling a little bit more empowered. So let's talk a little bit about the brain and how it is set up. So we have our primitive, our reptilian brain, okay? That is like that fight, flight, survival brain. And when you're doing a lot of dieting and a lot of fasting, hello, keto carnivore people, fasting, you are gonna wake up that reptilian brain. And when your reptilian brain is active, those addiction centers, stress centers, and addiction and stress are right next to each other in that brain center, and it's actually in the midbrain. So those things are right next to each other. So when your stress is activated, your addiction center is going to activate, because they're just next to each other. They trigger one another. So a lot of times we talk about we have childhood issues and childhood trauma. Trust me, I could do a whole separate video and a series of videos on my childhood trauma. But a lot of the time it is our stress load. That stress has gotten so unbearable, that addiction center is activated. Once the addiction center is activated, we're likely to go into that binge cycle and lose control of the front brain. So the back brain is your primitive animal brain, you've got the middle brain, which is your emotional brain, and these all develop millions of years apart. It's only recently that this front brain, the neocortex, began to develop, and it's very thin. It's not as big as the back and the middle brain. And that front brain is what allows us to be intelligent human beings, allows us to make good decisions, allows us to not stuff our faces and go into addictive behaviors. So, how do we activate this front part of our brain? What do we do? So on a very scientific level, the brain is elastic, the brain is neuroplastic. Those neurons, as they wire, they're going to get stronger. Those neural pathways are going to get stronger. So if you have an addiction center that is very, very strong, it is going to take some work for you to actually physically change your brain. And there are lots of things you can do it. I'll probably do more and more to this video. Comment below if you want me to just continue to add to this topic. But one of those things is your mirror neurons. So the people that you're around and who you see, what you're watching them do. That's why I follow YouTubers. I follow people on Instagram who are not binging, who are recovering from binge eating disorder, who are recovering from food addiction, because those mirror neurons, that's one part of your brain that's always working consistently, no matter if you're an animal, emotional, or front brain. That mirror neurons are always working because we had tribes. As people, we had tribes. We traveled around. There was one person in the tribe that knew how to catch the food, one person who knew how to stay away from the animals. So the people that we are around, we're kind of looking at them. They're mirror neurons. We're like, okay, we're part of this tribe. We do what this tribe does. Even if the tribe is doing some stupid stuff, you guys, look back at history. Look at tribes. Look at that mentality of being in a group and doing what they do or say, and following blindly no matter what. So being around people, and I use, again, Instagram and YouTube to follow people that are living the lifestyle that I want to live, because my family doesn't eat the way that I eat. They eat cake, they eat whatever. So I use those people around me, in virtual world, to encourage me to keep doing what I'm doing and to not go in that binge behavior. Because when you get into that animal brain, and mirror neurons will send you there. So turning on the TV, watching TV or watching YouTube with food, cooking shows, people eating, advertisements, it's everywhere. So you really, really do have to watch who you're around, what they're doing, how they're eating. But you now, in this day and age, what's really cool is that we have the power to make those choices. It's really cool to be around people who are recovering, who are doing that stuff. The other thing that you've got to start doing is strengthening your brain. So we go to the gym and we work out, we do bicep curls for our brain, right? We can do the same thing for our brain through meditation. And I'm gonna drop some links below in the comments of different types of meditation. I think to tell someone to just go meditate, I think that's not really a good idea. There are some books that I recommend and some teachers I recommend that you actually get a technique and learn how to do it, because that way you're gonna be a lot more consistent and it's something you do. So it has been shown that meditating every single day for 8 weeks, this has been studied at Harvard, it was a 2012 Harvard study, 8 weeks, 9 minutes a day, it actually shrunk that animal brain, the amygdala. It grew that middle brain where we're able to make those better choices and help people have access to that neocortex, the frontal lobe, so that they were able to stop having those addictive behaviors. So for me, my story is struggled with binge eating disorder, alcohol addiction. After I stopped the binging, my addiction just switched right over to alcohol, and struggled until I started really practicing yoga and meditation. Meditation was huge for me. Meditation is like yoga on steroids. I read the book, and I'll drop it in the comments or the description below, Bliss More, by a guy named Light Watkins. Immediately started feeling relaxed, immediately started feeling better, and within a few months I was able to switch and transition my diet over to the carnivore diet, which is completely sugar-free. So that's a whole other video, other topic. The carnivore diet has worked well for me because my body was heavily addicted to sugars, and this is another thing that does not get talked about a lot in the binge eating disorder space is our body's physical addiction to sugar. And I'm not saying you have to do carnivore or even keto, but this has also been clinically shown what happens when we have sugar, when we have sweet. Our blood sugars go up and then they drop rapidly, making us more hungry. That causes inflammation in the body, inflammation in the brain, and we get physically addicted to those foods. So for me, a huge part of my recovery from binge eating disorder has been carnivore diet, staying off of the sugar, having a supportive community around me. And I don't know, again, if that's going to be something that's going to work for you, but I do know that you have to get your body off of those foods. You have to get off the sugars, you have to get off the grains, off of those things that are going to spike up your blood sugar, right? And for me, that's what's worked. Over the last year, I have not been on a binge in an entire year, but I have meditated. I do those mirror neurons, so I have a community around me, and I also just don't eat sugar. Anytime that I do eat sugar, I'm triggered. I'm literally triggered. I seek out food, and that it's like that center in my brain gets active again, and it's real. I mean, this is like real science. The last thing I want to say, and I may do a whole separate video about this, is about dieting and fasting. So when we're recovering from binge eating disorder, when we're recovering from eating disorders, we want to do everything possible to not activate that primitive part of our brain, that part of our brain that says, we're out of food, we're going to die, okay? You're going to trigger yourself, you're going to set yourself up more than likely to go on those binges if you start doing a lot of fasting, if you start even, for some people, intermittent fasting. And I think intermittent fasting and fasting is great, autophagy is great, it heals the body, there are so many benefits. But if you're struggling with binge eating disorder, even if you've been carnivore or keto for a while, and you're struggling and binging and you're wondering why, number one, it's probably because you're not eating often enough. Maybe you're forcing yourself to stay in a window of eating, or maybe you're not eating enough. So I think if you're really struggling, you need to try to eat 3 meals a day at the same time every day, so you can start reinforcing to your brain there's plenty of food around, there's enough food around, we're safe, we're okay. So you don't activate that addiction center of your brain. And for me, I have done fasting on the carnivore diet. I think the only reason why it didn't trigger me to go into an immediate binge cycle was that I meditate for 20 minutes every day, twice a day. So I have really been working hard, and I will comment below if you want me to do more videos about this. I've really worked hard to strengthen those neural pathways in my brain and kind of shrink that primitive fight-flight response, fight-flight part of my brain. So I've worked hard on that. And I will continue to do that as part of my practice. So that's where I'm at, you guys, with this whole thing. I will probably do a whole separate video on fasting, and because it's really popular right now. It's really popular, and I think a lot of people are kind of failing going through these binge cycles because they are not eating enough and they're activating that animal part of their brain. They don't understand how brain chemistry works. And they're thinking, I'm a failure, I keep failing this, I can't do this, and it's hard. So let me know in the comments below if you want me to make that second video more so about fasting. I would love to help, I would love to add more information, keep the conversation going, comment below, let me know what you think. And if you guys need help, shout out to me on Instagram at carnivore.yogi. I also do offer, I have very, very limited space available, one-on-one coaching. With that one-on-one coaching, it's through video call. It's very intense. You have to contact me every day because I really want to enforce that mirror neurons part of things. So having someone that you connect with, talk with every single day, or that you're communicating with, that is going to help to shut down that part of your brain that thinks you need to be part of a tribe that eats whatever they want, goes fast food, eats cake and celebrates with food. Like, you've got to change up your tribe. You got to change up those mirror neurons. So I hope this was helpful. Again, it wasn't as much of a carnivore video as most of my others, but I really have, a passion to talk more about food addiction, binge eating disorders, and to help. So thanks again for tuning in. If this was helpful, take a screenshot, share it on Instagram, tag me at carnivore.yogi, and share it with your friends. Thanks, guys.